Hi everyone, welcome to another great car here on the Car Reviews podcast with CollectorCarCanada.CA. Today we have a 1980 Fiat Spider 2000 designed by Pininfarina. Lot number on this one is 234 on CollectorCarCanada.CA. So I'm almost ready to start it here. We'll turn off the microphone I have at my person and go to the camera's microphone so you can hear the camera hear the camera's microphone as we start it up. So here we go with the startup. We'll have a listen to the engine, the exhaust, and then we'll get to a tour of the car. As you might be able to have heard, this car's got an aftermarket exhaust, which is a little throatier than stock. And I'll just pop that hood, clamshell with the front hinge. And I'll grab the camera, we'll switch the picture around for a handheld camera portion of the video and start the tour. Okay, so we'll continue on with the 1980 Fiat Spider 2000. As I say, it's a front hinged hood, and that setup right there allows us to have it propped up without even a prop. So that's a good look at the 2000cc 1980 Fiat engine. You can see a Fiat label here on the air cleaner. And I'll put the microphone down a little closer to the engine itself so we can get a good listen. So it's got a nice healthy idle. And another, let's listen, get a little closer to that belt down below here. The car is cool, so you can see that rad fan is not blowing. And back to the exhaust here. As I say, this has got an aftermarket exhaust. It's a little throaty, and the owner figures it's worth a good, we won't estimate, but a little more horsepower than stock. Alright, so there's a good listen to the engine and the exhaust. And we'll get toured with a tour of the rest of the car. I'll cut the engine though. We don't need it right now. Give you one last look at the engine before we start the tour of the exterior of the car. Without it running, of course. And putting the hood down is as easy as putting it up. There we go. Take it shut. So as I say, 2,000 cubic centimeter engine in this 1980 Fiat Spider 2000. 2000 short, I guess part of the nomenclature for the 2000cc engine. Finished in a light blue. There are a few blemishes on the body, and we'll try to point those out as we go. There's one up here by this emblem here on the front. In fact, that emblem just went on a few days ago. Would you believe someone stole the emblem from the car just as the seller was prepping it for sale? But he was fastidious and he replaced it. So there's a new emblem in place. But there's a pretty good sized chip here by the emblem. So there it is with a toonie to give you a sense of perspective. And there are a couple of paint bubbles by it as well. Give you a good sense. So working our way around. So we're taking the owner at his word on this one. He tells me that your typical 1980 built Fiat 2000 Spider is fuel injected. However, he says this is an early build, built in 1979, and it's running a carburetor. And the reason that came up is because he pointed out that the carburetor was recently rebuilt. So we could hear fuel getting delivered to the engine pretty reliably there as we had it idling. So I'd say the carburetor's working pretty reliably. And we've got a set of 13-inch Fiat wheels all the way around. If you look closely, you can see an inscription that they're made in Italy.
Please disregard these tires. Another set of tires has been installed as photographed on the detailed listing for lot 234.
And I think I mentioned already how this design is by Pininfarina, the famed Italian design house that's done work also for the likes of Ferrari. And that emblem there is signify the Pininfarina design. Here's a look at the driver's rear 13-inch Fiat wheel, again with the Pirelli P8000s. Only one exterior mirror on this car. There is not one on the passenger side, just here on the driver's side, and it's got the black cap. While we're at it, I'll show you the serial number, which will match up to the CCC Vital Info area of the listing. Again, it's lot 234 on CollectorCarCanada.CA. Now, those who have seen our videos before have heard me say that I like to point out the sort of the worst part of the car, and I think we found it here. There's been a little body repair done on the cheap here with some touch-up paint. There is some, I'll also mention, there is some touch-up paint that comes along with the car in the glove box, but not perfect, but also reflected in the expected price by the seller. And just ahead of it here on this wheel well is another little bubble. And with the tuning, you get a sense of the size of it. Convertible top, as I say, and of course, this one's got the parade boot in place, covering the top when it's folded down. There's an antenna, fuel door. There are close-ups of that in the detailed listing. Chrome bumpers front and rear on the car. There's a good look at the rear. And then the tail lights with the integrated indicators and reverse lights. And it took me a minute to find it when I wanted to get into the trunk, but you can see the keyhole for the trunk is inside that last zero, the 2000 emblem there. And there's something in that trunk I want to show you, so let's go and grab the key now while I'm thinking of it. It's still sitting in the ignition from when I started the car. So working our way back to the trunk. Yeah, I'll pop that into the keyhole. Release that. It looked like I was fumbling. It's because I'm not familiar with the car. The key works perfectly. So the seller wanted me to point out this car comes with this new top. So uninstalled, but a new top here in the trunk. To go along with it, there's also a full-size spare in the trunk here too. I'll get this new top back into place in the trunk, and I can show you that spare tire below this piece of cardboard here. So a full-size spare, the 13-inch. And working our way, so that trunk just pretty lightweight door, pops right down, no trouble at all. So there's a little bit of corrosion here on the chrome bumper, nothing too bad, no perforation certainly. And we're getting a little bit of sun here just on the sun side of the car as we make our way over it. So you can see this light blue really is pretty snappy. It does pop, and it looks pretty sharp here on the 1980 Fiat Spider. So, trying to see flaws on this side. I think the worst we have for a flaw here is down here at the base of the door on the passenger side. And there's a look at the Pininfarina badge here on the passenger side of the car. There is a little bit of upset too here on these door handles, the chrome door handle. There's a bit of pitting there. I also saw it on the driver's door. I'll show you that while I'm thinking of it too. But here's a good look at the chrome bumper up front. And a slight bit of corrosion, I suppose, up here on the front one as well. I'll get my tuning out again and we can have a look at that for perspective's sake. So pretty tiny little spots. And there's a good look at the grill, feeding that 2-liter Fiat engine. And I said I'd show you the driver's door. Here it is, with a bit of pitting on the chrome on that door handle. So we'll climb into the car. Actually, I'm not going to climb into it. It is a 4-seater, but it's a pretty tight little car. So I'm not going to, I can shoot it from outside of the car. That's what I'm going to do. So these door cards, pretty basic. I do note that I imagine that was for a remote mirror control. So to control the mirror, you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way, just with your hand right on the mirror itself. Crank windows and vent windows. I'd say it's also missing a little controller for the vent window on the driver's side. There we can see it on the passenger side. No trouble keeping it sealed though on the driver's side. It's just a hand-operated item without the lever, as we saw on the passenger side. 3-spoke steering wheel, original instrumentation with a speedometer that maxes out at 220 kilometers an hour. We've got a odometer reading there of 19,913, but we're going to be selling this one as a true mileage unknown car, TMU. 8,000 RPM tachometer, red line though at 6,000. And in the center there's a coolant temperature gauge, and to the left fuel gauge, and to the right an analog clock, which I'm pleased to relate is still working. It's now 10 past 5, so we've got a functional analog clock. The light control is here on a really basic little switch. 5-speed manual transmission for this car with a wooden shift knob that's not labeled with the gears. You can see there's label for the gears down below here aft of the ashtray. In the center stack, we've got wiper controls, we've got a brake, a light for the emergency brake, 4-way control, and a seatbelt warning. And on the far right, the dial controls the dash lighting, dash back lighting. And another little thing that the seller's just done to prep the car for sale is to install a reasonably period correct AM/FM stereo cassette, which is a Radio Shack product. So speaking of period correct, they were everywhere in 1980, of course. We don't get them anywhere, but you can see Optimus brand on that cassette door. That was an in-house brand at Radio Shack, just like Realistic was. Another little thing, just like the analog clock I was impressed by, is this little map light. Still functional. Not bad for a 1980. Here's a little ashtray, pretty clean. And there is a lighter up here as well. Up here on that piece of wood. That wooden dash is sharp, and the dash cover up top, the dash pad, it's a vinyl finish, but no cracking on it. I've got the emergency brake set, and there are the, I'd say HVAC, but that would be exaggerating it. No air conditioning on this car. So heat and ventilation. You can see the heat label and the defrost label right there. So yeah, blue vinyl seats, not leather, that's vinyl. But they remain in pretty good condition for a 1980 car. If you see any mess on here, it's not tears in the upholstery. We're being blessed with some falling leaves nearby. I guess that's the backside of these natural surroundings we chose today. But a little bench in the rear for short-term passengers. Probably not best for a long trip. But that gives you a good sense of the interior of the car as well. I'll show you the visors. There's even a mirror on the passenger visor, which you didn't see on every car in 1980. So one last walk around the car, and we'll move to some closing thoughts. Beautiful day here near the seller's home with a waterfall in the rear here. So that gives you a good look at the 1980 Fiat 2000 Spider by Pininfarina, and it's lot 234 on CollectorCarCanada.CA. So there's a good look at the 1980 Fiat 2000 Spider by Pininfarina. Again, it is lot 234 on CollectorCarCanada.CA. One thing I've left out to date is that for Ontario buyers, this car comes with an Ontario Safety Standard Certificate. So it's already safety for Ontario license plates, ready to go. Again, lot 234 on CollectorCarCanada.CA, 1980 Fiat Spider 2000 by Pininfarina. Thank you for watching, and on to the next car.